Good morning, good morning. Happy Tuesday. Get the camera ready here for you guys. Welcome, welcome. Come on in. A topic today near and dear to my heart. We're going to be talking about what I learned from my corporate to coach transition. So very excited to chat with you guys about this today. Before we get started here, I'm just going to do my usual tech check. Make sure that I can hear you guys, or that you guys can hear me, that you can see me. Let me just pull it up here in the group and make sure all is well. Looks like you guys can hear me. So as you guys are coming in, drop me a comment. Let me know where you are watching from. Love to see who's joining me from all around the world. And I would love to hear what you are looking to learn today. What are you are hoping to learn from today's topic, what I learned from my corporate to coach transition. So again, just drop me a comment, let me know that you're here and where you're watching from so I can make sure that I can see your comments as well in the group. And as usual, this is interactive. So, I don't want to just be talking at you guys. If you have a question about this topic or what I learned on my corporate to coach transition journey, this is the time to ask, or if something's on your mind about how you're going to make the transition, this is the time to bring that up. And I'm happy to talk to you on that topic. So for those of you who haven't met me yet, my name is Betty Kempa. I'm a business coach for coaches, marketing strategist, LinkedIn expert, IPEC graduate, member of the Forbes Coaches Council, and the founder of the Corporate to Six-Figure Coach Academy. My specialty is helping corporate renegades ditch the 9-to-5 and repackage their genius into a six-figure coaching business using my signature methodology, the 5 C's of building a six-figure coaching business. As always, if you'd like additional coaching support with your business, check out the link in the copy of this post to apply for a discovery call with me. That would be really, a chance for us to get to know each other, for me to learn about your business challenges and goals. All of you guys have different challenges and goals when it comes to your business. And that would also be the time on the discovery call for you to ask me any questions. And we can see if you're fit for the Corporate to Six-Figure Coach Academy. Okay, so as you're coming in, drop a comment. Let me know where you are watching from. And let me make sure that you guys can see the video. That's always important, to make sure you guys can see it. Looks good. Let me know if you can see it okay. Sometimes it pops up as a sale post and then you guys can't see the video, but looks like it's fixed. Looks like that problem is solved. So Hallie, if that's you there solving that problem, thank you so much for fixing that. Shannon's here watching with us. Hey Shannon, good morning. Nice to see you. So let's jump into today's topic, what I learned from my corporate to coach transition. I want to talk about mistakes that I made, right, that you should avoid. Learn from my mistakes. I want to talk about wins that I had throughout my journey, right? Wins that you can replicate. I want to talk about strategies that I implemented to make that corporate to coach transition easier, right? So those are the 3 things I want to cover today. If there is something specific that you want me to touch on, drop a comment and let me know and I'll make sure to touch on it. If you're joining us live, give me a hashtag live. And if you are joining us on the replay, I'd love to know that too, because I come back and I look at the comments even after the fact, so you can drop hashtag replay. Okay, so just, a little bit about my corporate background and my story for those of you who are unfamiliar with me, just as it might pertain to your own story, right? So, when I first began my stint in the corporate world, it really all for me started with a desire to emulate my dad's successful corporate career. He was a very successful HR executive. I always looked up to him and how he supported our family with his corporate job. So in my mind, the corporate world was like the pinnacle of success, right? So graduating college, I really worked my tail off to bust into corporate America and to climb my way up the corporate ladder. A decade later, I had built this very successful career as a corporate communications leader. I worked at various Fortune 500s, yet I still suffered from what I call square peg, round hole syndrome, right? And I ignored this feeling that I had that something was off, right? Something felt off for me. I convinced myself to white knuckle it through each day and hold tight to my safe, and I put that in quotation marks, my safe corporate job. But for me, the truth was the only part of the day that I actually enjoyed was where I got to coach others, right? In our corporate jobs, there's usually a couple parts of the day that you look forward to. And for me, it was when I got to coach, right? I deep down, I really desired that freedom, freedom of time, freedom of energy, freedom of focus, that I knew secretly would be granted to me if I ran my own business. My stint, and we all have a different story, my stint in the corporate world, I was very exhausted from stress, from toxicity. There was a lot of toxicity going on, crazy hours, lack of work-life balance. And really there was this, and I don't know if you guys ever have this, when it comes to even your business or just life in general, I had this small voice within me that was always kind of whispering, this isn't where your story is supposed to end. And it was constant, right? This isn't where your story is supposed to end. But I am a very logical human. So my logical brain kind of forced me to tuck away my secret dream of coaching until one day I got laid off. From my safe corporate job. You go through all the emotions when you get laid off, but I took that time to reflect, as most of us do, and I decided I get to decide what I want to make this mean for me, right? And for me, I took that layoff as a sign from the universe to go for it, to start my own coaching business. And perhaps if you are watching this right now, right, if you're here with me now, perhaps this is your sign, right? We all got to look for the signs, right? Am I where I'm supposed to be? Is there somewhere else that I need to strive for? So for me, that was my sign. The universe giving me a little boost, right? And I ended up getting certified at IPEC, the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching. When I started out coaching, my niche was in career coaching. I started in career coaching because I wanted to help unfulfilled corporate women just like me figure out what kind of career would make them blissfully happy. Right? Most of us are coaching former versions of ourselves. My first year in business as a career coach, I really took the time to dive into understanding the business component, right? Of when you're an entrepreneur, it's not just about coaching, it's also about building the business, right? So I took a lot of energy and time to understand how do you stand up a business, right? A sustainable business. I took a lot of business courses. I read a ton of business books. I invested a lot of time and money into learning about business. Ironically for me, the magic happened when, I actually leaned into my expertise from my former corporate communications role. So I left that world behind, and then I realized, in that world, my job had been to create content that would be compelling and engaging to the consumer and inspire them to take action. That's what I did for a decade. And it's when I really leaned into that expertise as a coach, as a business owner, that, it really allowed me to pivot my client attraction strategy, how I was, attracting clients to virtual content marketing, right? So I was wearing the ruby slippers. I just had to click them. Once I leveraged my expertise in that way, I was able to hit six figures my first year in business as a career coach at the time. And I did that with spending $0 on Facebook ads. I wasn't running at the time any, webinars or anything crazy like that. I kept it fairly simple, right? I didn't get the shiny object syndrome. That's a business killer. Now for me, again, just kind of to round out the end of my story here before we talk about some of the mistakes I made, what I saw over time is that and you guys all got to be cognizant of who you're attracting. For me, the types of clients that were seeking me out, even as a career coach, they were increasingly becoming they were corporate professionals, but they were saying, we don't want another corporate job, right? We want to do what you did, right? We want to become a coach. How did you do that? How did you replace your corporate income as a coach? So, I had this blueprint that I used, and that's, what people were coming to me for, was to teach them how to replicate my system to replace their corporate income. So that was really cool to see for me, because, as much as career coaching was a really awesome way for me to kick off my coaching career, my zone of genius is business and marketing, right? So for me, that niche switch was very natural. So that's what I do today, right? I'm business coaching. I'm helping corporate renegades ditch the 9-to-5 and repackage their genius into a six-figure coaching business using my own signature methodology, the 5 C's of building a six-figure coaching business. I, at this point have helped former corporate renegades, as I like to call them, build all types of successful coaching businesses, including career coaches, leadership coaches, health coaches. I've worked with spiritual coaches, a lot of work-life integration coaches, coaches for moms, health coaches, business coaches, burnout coaches. The list goes on and on. So that's a little bit about my background, just so you guys can kind of understand where I was to where I am now. Just checking the comments here. Anybody popping in, drop me a comment. Let me know where you're watching from. I see I have multiple people with us, but I can't see who it is. So drop me a comment. Let me know where you're watching from. Okay, so into the mistakes I made. I like talking about mistakes. Mistakes are fun because mistakes are not mistakes, right? We learn from mistakes. So I'm like, yes, bring on the mistakes. I love to learn from them, and I love to share them with others so that you guys can learn from my mistakes as well. That's what I like to do with my clients too, right? I'm the guinea pig. I go out and I try. I test different things out, and then I let people know what worked and what didn't work. So mistakes I made that you probably want to avoid, right? A couple of things. The first thing I would say is that when I first started, didn't lean into my genius zone, which was content marketing, right away, right? I kind of ignored that was my genius zone. When I first started, right, I'm talking about like my first year, I was not aware that to build a successful coaching business, you really need an effective content marketing calendar, right? And it's got to be consistent, and it's got to be the right content to attract the people you want to work with, right? I just didn't, right? We don't know what we don't know. That's why you guys are here, right? Because you're learning. And when I first started, I wasn't aware, right? You've got to be consistent with content marketing, and you've got to be intentional, right? And why? To position yourself as a credible expert and to stay in front of your ideal client avatar, right? People are not always ready to work with you right away, right? It might take weeks, it might take months. It could take up to 16 touch points until they're ready to work with you. So when I first started, I remember, as a career coach, I was like, yes, I'm gonna attend networking events for job seekers, and I'm gonna find my ideal clients at these networking events. At the time, I was living in near San Francisco. For those of you familiar, I was living near San Francisco. I was living in a really cute place called Alameda. And so it was right across from San Francisco. And of course, to get to San Francisco, I had to take a big bridge to get in there. So I remember, I had this idea. I'm going to go to job seeking events and find my ideal clients. So I was attending nightly networking events 3 times a week, and I committed to doing that for an entire month. And, I'll be honest, I really loathed it because I'm an introvert. So I, as an introvert, prefer to go deep, deep, deep one-on-one with people, right? I don't really enjoy being at massive networking events where we're kind of mingling, eating hors d'oeuvres. Like, that's not my thing. But I didn't know, right, that wasn't effective. So I did that 3 times a week for a month. Never got a client that way. Right. Now, again, nothing against network. I'm not telling you guys like never go to a networking event. But again, it's just important that when you're building out your strategy of how you're going to get in front of your ideal clients, you have to really understand, are my ideal clients at that event? And what I came to understand was my people were not there, right? The people that I was looking to work with, they were not at those job seeking events. So that was time that could have been better spent building deep relationships in the virtual world, right? You can build deep relationships with people in the DMs, over Zoom, on the phone, on lives like this, and connecting afterwards. My time that month could have been better spent doing stuff like that, building deep relationships in the virtual world, versus driving across the bridge, 3 times a week every night. So that is the first mistake, because it's not really a mistake, right? We learn. Another mistake that I made, and I'll tell you guys this straight up, another mistake that I made was not getting onto live video my first year. So my first year, I didn't get onto live video. I relied on blogging. Nothing against blogging. Blogging's awesome. I still will write, articles, blogs, every so often. It's great for SEO on your website. However, all of us should be showing up live on video at least once a week to get in front of our ideal client avatar. That is how you build know, like, and trust. I have very few clients that have decided to work with me before seeing me on video, right? Very, very few, right? So that, live video provides 2-way interaction with your ideal client avatars. They can ask you questions, you can hot seat coach, right? When you're live, you can kind of go back and forth with people. So live video. I left a lot of money on the table by not getting on video my first year. Another mistake, and by the way, if you resonate with any of these, and no shame, I'm like, yes, bring on the mistakes. So if you resonate with any of these, share, let me know. Hey, Charlene, thanks for joining us today. Here's Beth. Hey, Beth, thanks for joining us today. Let's see here. And Beth is still in corporate, so it's tough to get away during business hours. Yeah, I totally get it, Beth. And let me know, all of you guys watching, well, if you're watching, I'm assuming you found a way to get away, but even if you're watching the replay, let me know when you guys can join, because I'm trying to find a way to come live when you guys are here. It's tough because everyone's in a different time zone. But I'm glad you're here. Thanks, Beth. Another mistake I made, relying on digital courses as a means for me to learn how to build a successful business. It can be scary at first to invest in a mentor. So when I first started, I, like most of us, had some shiny object syndrome, right? And I get excited about business and marketing, so I'm especially nuts with this stuff, right? I had every book, I bought every business course, I got every digital course, right? And again, you learn from this stuff, but that's not where you get real traction. And it's also not enough, you need a mentor to help you troubleshoot, right? So the digital courses, man, that for me was a mistake that kind of took me the long way. of trying to stand up my business. So I would, if I could turn back time, I wish I would have gone straight to a mentor sooner, because once I did that, I experienced rapid growth in my business. Another mistake, in quotations, because there are no mistakes, there's just lessons we learn, but this is a big one. And this mistake was the story that I used to tell myself about my corporate job. Like, this is the story I told myself: my corporate job is secure, right? And I told myself that again and again. And that's why I said I was white knuckling it. It's secure. Don't lose the security. It's secure. And I'm risk averse, so believe me, right? So the story I told myself was that my corporate job is secure and being an entrepreneur is not secure. And that is the story I made up in my own head, until the day I got laid off. And I realized it's not true, right? It's not true. It's a limiting belief that I created, right? It's like I woke up, and you remember in The Matrix, the movie, where all of a sudden, Neo can see, all the different aspects of reality, the way the world really is, right? And that's, for me, it was like I took off the glasses and it was like, oh, it's not so secure. In fact, your corporate job is entirely out of your hands, right? It's entirely out of your hands, whether there's a layoff, whether you get fired, whether you get a new boss and they want to restructure, right? It's really out of your hands. Running my own coaching business has allowed me to know exactly how much income I will bring in each month, right? And if I want to alter that number, I know exactly which levers to pull in my business, right? If I'm like, oh, I want to boost, I know what levers to pull. When COVID hit and a lot of people were struggling, I think, that was one of the times where I realized how grateful that I felt for running a coaching business, a successful virtual business that was completely in my own realm of control. Right? So I have now rewired my brain when it comes to my own definition of security. And I will tell you, that has been very freeing, right? So that's a mistake that I made that has changed for me. Hey, Ivy, thanks for watching. Ivy asked, where do you suggest posting your videos? Great question, Ivy. So my suggestion is, obviously, first you want to have your niche, your I help who with what statement, right? So once you have a niche and you've developed who is my ideal client avatar that I'm trying to reach, that I'm trying to help, the question you want to ask yourself is, where does my ideal client avatar hang out? That's the question to ask yourself. So if your ideal client avatar is on LinkedIn, you want to go on LinkedIn. And, I suggest, if your clients are on LinkedIn, apply for LinkedIn Live. That's like the holy grail. And if they deny you, apply again. Like, I had to apply 3 times before I got approved for LinkedIn Live. Now, right, like you guys are all here in my Facebook group. So I'm going live in a Facebook group. So that's really the answer to your question, Ivy, is where do your ideal client avatars hang out? Wherever they hang out, go to them. Go, don't try to pull people where you are, you go where they are and go live on your videos. So really good question. Okay. So let's talk about some wins that I had that you guys could replicate. Right, wins that I had that you guys could replicate. The first one was getting clear on my niche. I know you guys, I'm like a broken record, but it's true. It just made my life so much easier. Your I help who with what, so that statement, that's why I run that boot camp, the free Choose Your Niche boot camp. I run that because it's really important. That's the first step I took that got me some traction, right? Where my ideal client could actually find me. And I stood out amongst my competitors because I was specific with who I helped and the urgent problem I helped them with. So that was really the first win. I would have ideal clients that would say to me, yeah, I looked at your LinkedIn profile or I looked at your website and I want to work with you because you specifically help people like me versus the other coaches that were kind of general. So that was really the first win. And that was a big piece of how, I attracted the right clients. Side note, another win, I was okay with pivoting my niche when the timing was right? And that's kind of a cool thing, is that when you choose a niche, your niche does not have to be set in stone, right? I started as a career coach, and then I started to notice, who am I attracting into my orbit? It's people that wanted more business and marketing. I also started to notice, what is my strength? What is my power zone? My power zone is business and marketing, right? So it was okay, right? I still got to my 6 figures my first year as a career coach. And then, I pivoted, right, to a niche that made more sense. So don't put a lot of pressure on yourself, right? That's another win. It's like, but if I hadn't have chosen that niche and I straddled, a couple different things, I would not have gotten to 6 figures my first year. So that was the first win. A second win that I had that you guys can replicate is, I immediately built out a signature methodology. So when I say a signature methodology, I'm talking about, I built a pathway, 3 to 5 steps of how I'm going to get my clients from point of pain to their dream or their goal or their vision, right? I built this bridge, this signature method. I also, built a package that was very high value, right? I had a coaching package, and I was like, it's not like I was saying, hey, 10 coaching sessions. I was, creating a coaching package that was chock full of value, right? And I was asking my clients, what do you guys want? Right? Sky's the limit. And I built this incredibly high value package. And when you build a high value package, then you can attach a high ticket. High ticket is arbitrary, but you can, increase your price if you increase your value. So that's a win that I had. And I only continued to increase the value of my package over time. Right? And each time you increase your value, you can increase your ticket. And for me, especially that first year, as a career coach, I got to a point where I only had to sell 1 package per month, 1, to hit my financial target. It was a win for the client because I'm not just slapping on a price ticket. It was a highly valuable, transformational coaching package, right? It was designed to help her achieve her dream, which was priceless for her. So it was a win for the client. It was a win for me because I didn't have to be in hustle or burnout mode, right? Selling 3 to 4 packages per month to hit my goal, right? That is exhausting. And then not only are you in hustle burnout mode, but then you show up, you're not showing up for your clients the right way, right? So I'd rather keep a tight circle and serve them fiercely than have to spread myself so thin to hit my financial target. So that was another win you guys can replicate. A third win, I didn't do it alone. I did not do it alone, in multiple ways. But, my first example is when I was career coaching, I will tell you guys straight up, I was certified as a coach. I didn't want to do resumes, LinkedIn. I didn't want to do that. However, my clients needed that, right? So I'm not going to just put earmuffs on my ears and pretend like they don't want that because I don't want to do it. So instead of ignoring their need, I found some awesome contractors who wrote resumes, who did LinkedIn profiles, and each time I sold a big package, I, had my contractors do the client's resume and LinkedIn for them. And that was such a win for everyone, right? The client was thrilled because, it was a support team. I think I was calling it like your career change board of directors or something like that. The client was thrilled to have a team behind them. And I was thrilled because I didn't have to work on resumes, right? There's somebody else that was awesome at that. And I just said, hey, for every big sale I make, I'll give you this, pay you and you do it for them. And it was like the perfect partnership. So that was another win. Another win that I had was choosing one social media platform where my ideal client avatar hung out. And I kind of just touched on that with Ivy's question before, which was a really good question. Hey, Deb, thanks for joining us today. So, I chose one social media platform where my ideal client avatar hung out, and I blew it up, right? So at the time, as a career coach, it was LinkedIn. That's where my people were. So I did not spread myself thin. Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, no way. I chose the one place where they hung out and I dominated it, right? I optimized my LinkedIn profile. I posted on there 5 days a week. I outreached on there. I went all in one platform. So when people thought of, my niche, and that platform, I was, one of the go-tos. So really important win that I had. Had I spread myself very thin, I would have not have, been able to have the success that I ended up having. Another win was, getting out of my comfort zone and going ahead and getting interviewed on a lot of other people's podcasts. Right. So I had made a list of podcasts where my ideal client avatars, they listened to those podcasts, and I reached out to those podcast owners and I requested, to come on and be interviewed. Right. I gave them a little pitch. That was a win because it built my credibility. It increased my visibility. Right. Credibility, visibility. Right. And the same thing with getting PR, right? Another big win for me was getting onto the Forbes Coaches Council, getting published in a lot of different places, right? So very important for all of you guys to think about is, how can I become a credible expert, the go-to expert in my niche, and how can I get visibility, right? Those two things, very, very important as you're building out your business, because then people are seeking you out, right? Versus you feeling like you have to hunt people down. And these small wins, right? And as you can tell, these were incremental wins that I had over time. And not every win has to do with money, right? These were foundational elements, wins that I had that led to, right, my 6 figures my first year. And then after that, I had a 6-figure quarter. And then after that, a 6-figure month, right? So it's the small incremental wins that at the time you're kind of trudging away and you're like, is this even going to make a difference? Is anyone out there? And then over time, right, it all comes to fruition. And that is, the wins that I share. This is a part of my program now, right? This is the Corporate to 6-Figure Coach Academy. This is what I teach, right? What worked for me, what works for my students, and what I teach. A couple strategies that I implemented to make the corporate to coach transition easier. And I want to share those with you guys as well if you're going through this kind of a transition. And again, each of us has our own situation, right? So you have to decide which of these things that worked for me could work for you, right? So you have to kind of analyze, which of these things that worked for her could work for me. For me, right? And I mentioned that I got laid off, which ended up being a blessing. I needed that kick in the butt. Not telling you guys to go out and get laid off. Don't do that. But I will say, even after my layoff, I got what I would call a bridge job. So my definition of a bridge job, it's paying more than enough to pay my bills. And also, it's helping to finance building my coaching business. The thing about a bridge job and why I call it a bridge job is it's not as much stress. It's not so intense. I'm not working 60 hours a week, right? I purposely looked out. It was another corporate job, and it was in my field, communications. However, I went from leading this huge team at this, big, company to becoming an individual contributor, which was perfect because it gave me breathing room, right? I could tell the company culture when I was interviewing. People were leaving early. My boss had kids, and she would leave at a certain time. They were okay with me leaving at like 4 o'clock or something, 4:30. And I told them ahead of time too. I didn't say, I let them know I was passionate about coaching. I let them know that ahead of time. So, I had a boundary where I would leave at a certain time to go work on my coaching. So that helped. Getting a bridge job was a strategy I implemented to make my transition easier. And during that time, I didn't feel as much pressure. Gotta get a client, right? You don't want to ever feel that pressure. It's not good for you. It's not good for your clients. It gave me some breathing room. The second strategy, I implemented to make the transition easier. I built my coaching business while I was still at my corporate job, right? It's not like I quit my corporate job and then was like, okay, let me work on my coaching business. I'm free. Let me do this. I was doing that nights and weekends, right? While I was at my corporate job. And that was important. I didn't start from square one when I left the last corporate job. So of course, when you are working a corporate job and building your coaching business, that requires getting really good in your corporate job at automating, delegating, and learning to say no and set boundaries and not feel guilty about it, right? So that was a really important piece of, I building my coaching business while at my corporate job. So I can't let this corporate job rail over me because that's going to detract from building the business. So setting healthy boundaries. But again, that bridge job was a very important piece of my strategy. Another strategy I implemented was cutting down on expenses before I made the transition. Right. So before I made that transition, my goal, I try to save about 6 months worth of bills. And again, it's going to be different for everybody. But that's what I aimed for. Right. I might have came shy of that and, left a little bit earlier, but I had a goal in mind. Right. And I kind of toned down for a hot minute the international travel and the spas. I'm like, let's just put that on hold and focus on financing the business, which is the dream, right? And now I can go on all the trips I want and live my life. Another strategy I implemented, a lot of people freak out about health insurance. So for me at the time, I was able to join my significant other's health insurance plan because he was working a 9 to 5. Now I will say, he ended up becoming an entrepreneur too at a certain point. So we're like, but the key with that was, I got a health insurance agent, right? They helped me look at, here's all the different possibilities for health insurance. And instead of freaking out about it, it's just a number, right? So I looked at the number. I said, oh, that's the monthly number. Let me work that into my budget and let me increase the amount of money I want to make each month to cover my health insurance. It's just a number. It's, and instead of kind of flipping out about health insurance, I just worked that into my budget. Another strategy I implemented was getting a mentor. Right? Again, I mentioned I took all these digital courses. It's not enough. And I will tell you guys, I've worked with numerous business coaches and mentors over the year. I would never, tell people, hey, work with me if I myself am not getting mentored, right? So really, really important, to get that mentor over the years. And what gets you to your first six figures is not what's going to get you to double that. And what's going to get you to double that is not what's going to get you to your first 1 million, right? It changes, the strategies change. So you have to make sure you're hooked up with a mentor who understands where you are currently at in the process. But very, very important. I did not build this business in a bubble, right? And nor do you need to, right? People have already been there, done that. I've joined masterminds over the years. That was a strategy I implemented that made life easier, where I was surrounded by others who were where I wanted to be, right? So again, if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. So get into the virtual rooms with the right people. Join masterminds with people who will propel you forward, challenge you, support you, brainstorm with you, share resources, right? Really important. And the last strategy, and honestly, this was a big one. And I still see coaches that struggle have a challenge with this last strategy. And this is, I was not afraid to invest. There is no way I would have gotten to the financial markers I've gotten to in my business without investing in the right places, right? But there's no way you can hit six-figure months in your business without investing. So that's, to me, what I see is the difference between coaches who have hit their financial targets versus those who are still struggling, is, if you've invested in yourself and your business. So just checking my comments here. If you guys have any questions that, maybe as it pertains to your own journey from corporate to coach, ask. Drop it into the comments. Even if you're watching the replay, tag me, and I'm happy to answer your questions, right? Because all of us are on our own journey. But there you have it. Drop into the comments as an action item, you guys. I want you to do one thing differently in your coaching business based on what you heard me talk about today, right? So I want to hear one light bulb that went off for you. And really, I want you guys to learn from both my mistakes and my wins. So drop a comment below. What is one thing you will do differently when it comes to your coaching business after watching this training? Right? And as always, if you are ready to build out your six-figure coaching business, there is a link to book a discovery call in the comments so we can explore whether you would be a good fit for the Corporate to Six-Figure Coach Academy. I love speaking with you guys, learning more about your coaching businesses and goals, your challenges, and just exploring different ways I can help you achieve them. A link to book a call is near the copy of this video. I'm just giving the comments one more quick check, making sure I got everybody. All right, so thanks you guys so much for joining, and I will catch you next week, same time, same place. Have a great week, guys.